There's a truth about women that almost no one admits. It's uncomfortable. It goes against the image they show the world. If you spoke it out loud at a family dinner, you'd be judged. But it's real. You can see it. You can confirm it. Once you truly understand the hidden side of female desire, you realize women don't always mean what they say about attraction. What they show publicly and what they feel privately are two very different things. In private, behind the mask of innocence, women have a wild, intense, and yes, sometimes dark side. A side that feels shame, a side society tells them to hide. This isn't disrespect. It's about understanding that women are complex sexual beings with instincts and desires society has pushed underground. Desires they often won't admit, even to themselves. If you can recognize and understand this, you gain a rare kind of influence, a psychological insight most men will never experience. Not by manipulation, but by seeing them clearly, respecting their depth, and responding to reality instead of illusion. The duality of herself. Long ago, a wise strategist made an observation that still resonates today. People judge more with their eyes than with their hands. He didn't mean that appearances are everything. He meant that most of human interaction happens on the surface. People trust what is visible. They believe what is displayed publicly. They assume truth exists where it can be observed. Yet reality rarely exists on the surface. Truth is intimate. Truth lives behind closed doors in moments unseen by the world. Public behavior is often performance. Private behavior is authenticity. This is not only true in politics, power, or society, it is true in attraction. It is true in desire. It is especially true for women. Every woman carries two selves, not metaphorically, but literally. Two distinct presences that exist simultaneously. There is the version the world interacts with, the face presented to society, and there is the version that only a select few ever witness. The face shaped by instinct, emotion, and unfiltered longing. The first is the public woman. She is polite, reasonable, composed, measured. She speaks in the language society demands: fairness, equality, propriety, and principle. She emphasizes rules, boundaries, and morality. She wants to be respected, valued, admired. She wants acceptance. She wants to navigate the world without friction, without judgment. She presents herself as competent, modern, ethical, intelligent. She explains her desires through socially approved frameworks: fairness, balance, respect. She is careful, controlled, precise. This public persona is not false. It is necessary. It allows her to operate within social structures safely. It allows her to work, belong, and avoid unnecessary scrutiny. It is her armor, her mask. But this is not the entirety of her being. Behind this mask exists the private woman. The private woman speaks differently. She does not rely on rules, politeness, or rational justification. She speaks in emotion, in instinct, in feeling. She communicates in what she moves toward, what excites her, what captivates her attention. She communicates through reactions, not explanations. The private woman craves intensity, depth, emotion unfiltered by societal approval. She does not seek fairness for its own sake. She seeks experiences that shake her from the monotony of obligation. She does not long for safety to avoid harm. She longs for safety to allow surrender, the release from constant vigilance, decision-making, and self-restraint. She wants to stop managing, stop controlling, stop calculating. She wants to feel fully, deeply, entirely. She wants moments where she does not need to be the adult, the professional, the good woman. She wants moments where she can simply exist in the power of raw sensation. The public woman wants understanding. The private woman wants to be felt. The public woman wants words. The private woman wants experience. The public woman explains. The private woman responds. This is where confusion arises. Men often listen to the public woman and mistake her words for truth. They take her explanations, her moral language, her socially shaped statements as reflections of her actual desires. They believe her mask is her essence. But words are camouflage. Reactions are revelation. The private woman reveals herself not in statements, but in movement, attention, and instinct. She shows up in what she remembers vividly, what she cannot resist, what makes her pulse quicken. She reveals herself in choice, not justification. The mask is logical. The body is instinctive. The mask is social. The body is natural. The mask is learned. The body is authentic. The public woman embodies what society allows. The private woman embodies what society fears, misunderstands, or cannot control. Her depth, her longing, her hunger for intensity, connection, and surrender are all contained behind the mask, protected, hidden, preserved. She is not broken, she is not immoral, she is not deceptive. She is human, fully human. Her desire for emotional intensity, transformation, connection, and surrender is natural, not aberrant. She keeps the mask in place because vulnerability is dangerous, because society judges, misinterprets, exploits. She shields herself. She only drops the mask where safety exists, where trust is proven, acceptance is certain, and the environment allows her to be exposed without consequence. When she does remove it, the man before her encounters the real woman, not the controlled, polite, correct, socially approved version, the raw, honest, reactive, alive version, the one capable of deep connection, memory, passion, and transformation. The man who understands this does not confront the mask. He does not argue with it. He does not shame or dismiss it. He honors it. He creates space for both identities to exist simultaneously. He provides safety for the mask and permission for the truth behind it to emerge. This is where real intimacy begins. This is where authentic connection is forged. This is where the difference between social appearance and human reality dissolves, and the extraordinary potential of relationship, desire, and emotional depth comes alive. The mask is the public woman. The truth is the private woman. Understanding this distinction is the key to seeing her, fully, completely, without illusion. The fantasy gap. Step into any large bookstore and move toward the romance shelves, the area that quietly generates more money than almost any other section. These books are not niche, they are not underground, they are not written for outsiders. They are mass-consumed by women across cultures, ages, and backgrounds. And again, one pattern dominates the stories. The central male figure is rarely soft, gentle, or endlessly accommodating. He is composed, he is controlled, he is powerful. He does not chase approval. He does not explain himself. He does not ask for permission to exist. He enters the woman's world and changes it, not by pleading, but by presence. Readers do not hide this preference. They buy these books publicly. They discuss them openly. They recommend them to friends. Yet if you ask many women directly whether they desire a man like that in real life, you will often receive rejection, defensiveness, or moral outrage. Why? Because what feels true internally is not always safe to say socially. Modern culture trains women to speak in values: kindness, fairness, equality, emotional availability, and safety. These are the acceptable answers. But attraction does not originate in the social mind. It forms in the emotional nervous system, the ancient part of the brain that responds to strength, certainty, direction, and intensity. And that part does not care what is fashionable to admit. This becomes even clearer when you look at the explosion of dark romance and creature fantasy. Stories involving vampires, demons, monsters, shadow figures, and powerful non-human beings are now among the most popular genres consumed by women. These are not nurturing characters. They are not fragile. They are not harmless. They are dangerous. They are dominant. They are overwhelming. Why would someone with access to real partners fantasize about something so extreme? Because these figures symbolize traits that modern men are taught to suppress: unapologetic confidence, emotional steadiness, physical and psychological presence, the ability to lead without asking for validation. The creature does not negotiate its identity. It does not seek approval. It does not justify its strength. It simply exists, and that certainty becomes magnetic. Not because women desire harm, not because they want chaos, but because they want to feel something powerful act upon them. They want to feel chosen rather than choosing, pulled rather than pushing, carried into intensity instead of managing it. Daily life demands constant control, decision-making, and emotional regulation. Fantasy offers the opposite. A space where responsibility dissolves, where desire can flow without explanation, where surrender is safe because the container is fictional. That is why these stories thrive. Not because women are flawed, not because women are immoral, but because human desire is not built on rules. It is built on emotion. And emotion has never cared about what people are comfortable saying out loud. The edge of attraction. Women crave intensity, but not chaos. They do not seek harm. They do not seek turmoil. They do not desire unpredictability that threatens their safety. What draws them is the sensation of controlled danger, the knowledge that a man possesses power and chooses to wield it carefully. They are drawn to strength, but strength paired with restraint. They are attracted to dominance, but dominance tempered by awareness. The thrill comes from the tension. A man could be dangerous, but he decides not to act on it. That decision builds trust. That restraint sparks desire. A man without an edge is invisible. A man without strength fades into the background. A man who is overly soft becomes a friend. He is polite. He is safe. He is predictable. And predictability never excites. It does not stir emotion. It does not ignite curiosity. It does not awaken anything within her. She feels calm, but she does not feel alive. Conversely, a man who lacks control is intimidating. Too aggressive, too forceful, too unrestrained. He sparks fear instead of attraction, pressure instead of longing, threat instead of trust. She does not reject strength. She rejects the absence of control. Without it, power becomes dangerous. The balance lies in the middle. A man who has raw power and keeps it in check. A man with intensity and the calm to anchor it. A man who carries depth and remains steady. He does not need to prove himself. He does not shout. He does not overcompensate. His presence is quiet but undeniable. His power is felt, not announced. This is what makes him magnetic. This is what makes him rare. This is what makes her remember him. He evokes two feelings at once: safety and awakening, protection and excitement, calm and aliveness. Not danger alone, not security alone, but controlled intensity, measured power, restraint that amplifies desire. This is not aggression, it is not dominance, it is not coldness, it is completeness. Strong enough to hold tension, calm enough to hold space, present enough to be experienced, disciplined enough to be trusted. The man who balances both sides becomes unforgettable. Not because he thrills, not because he comforts, but because he makes her feel something rare, safe in the presence of power. That is the edge. That is the balance. That is what endures. The wild man. Paradox. Every culture knows the tale of the wild man and the woman who falls for him. It's in ancient myths, it's in fairy tales, it's in blockbuster movies, it's in the novels women devour, and it doesn't stop there. It exists in reality. A woman meets a man who feels different from anyone she has known. He isn't violent, he isn't cruel, he isn't abusive, yet he exudes a kind of energy that sets him apart. He is powerful, unpredictable, magnetic, alive in a way most men around her are not, and she is drawn to him. Not because he is dependable, not because he is polite, not because he meets every societal standard of good manhood. She is drawn because he feels electric, because he carries presence, because he embodies something rare: intensity, mystery, and raw vitality. He is the wild man. And here is the crucial point. She does not fall for him despite these qualities. She falls for him because of them. The thrill, the danger, the edge, that is the spark of attraction. First comes fascination, then comes desire for stability, always in that order. Women do not desire safety and then long for danger. They encounter danger, feel alive, and then hope for safety. This explains the universality of the story. The wild man is unrestrained, he is commanding, he is unpredictable. And she convinces herself she is special. She believes she is the one who can soften him, the one whose love will reshape him, the one who can turn unbridled power into devotion. She steps into the narrative not as a victim, but as a savior. Her purpose feels clear, her meaning feels tangible. I am the one who changed him. It is a seductive identity. Yet this is where reality diverges from fantasy. Gradually, he calms. Gradually, he becomes predictable. Gradually, the danger dissipates. And with the fading edge, attraction diminishes. Not because safety is undesirable, not because kindness is unattractive, but because desire is fueled by contrast, by tension, by the unknown. The very quality that made him irresistible, the risk, the intensity, the unpredictability, vanishes. And something shifts inside her. She tells herself she should be satisfied. She tells herself she has everything she wanted, yet she feels a void, restlessness, confusion, a quiet dissatisfaction. Without realizing it, she begins scanning for another spark. Another wild man, not for drama, not for pain, but to feel alive again, to experience intensity, to awaken her emotions. And so, the cycle continues, drawn to danger, consumed by passion, softened by stability, disenchanted by predictability. This is not manipulation, it is not malevolence, it is human psychology. Desire is born from contrast. Attraction thrives on polarity. When the polarity fades, so does the fire. This is the wild man paradox. It is not about monsters, it is about energy. It is not about chaos, it is about intensity. It is not about bad men, it is about strong men losing their edge. When a man becomes too safe, too predictable, too emotionally flat, he becomes invisible. And she cannot explain why. She only knows that something vital is missing, something that once made her heart race, something that made her feel alive. And inevitably, she searches again, not to suffer, not to provoke drama, but to encounter life in its rawest, most electrifying form. She searches for the wild man, because feeling alive is more intoxicating than comfort ever could be. The power of presence. Words fade, feelings endure. A woman rarely recalls exactly what you said. She forgets your clever lines, your explanations, even your promises. But she never forgets how being around you made her feel. Language passes through the ears. Emotion lodges itself in the nervous system. That is where memory takes root. A polite, proper man is easily forgotten. He says the right things, behaves correctly, and follows the rules. But he rarely leaves a lasting impression. His presence is neutral, predictable, safe. Over time, he dissolves from her memory, not because he did anything wrong, but because he stirred nothing inside her. Contrast that with a man who moves her, not simply calming or reassuring her, but making her feel truly alive, seen, chosen, aware, stirred. He shifts the energy in the room. He changes the tempo of her emotions. His presence leaves a subtle, undeniable mark that the mind cannot erase. She remembers the way her pulse quickened, the way her thoughts stilled, the way her attention zeroed in on him. She remembers the quiet authority in his gaze, the deliberate calm in his voice, the sense that he exists fully without apology or distraction. That is what endures. Not the conversation, not the details, not the words, but the emotional resonance, the memory of how it felt to be in his orbit. This is why attraction is not rational. Desire does not grow from logic, explanation, or persuasion. You cannot argue someone into longing, nor can you reason them into passion. The nervous system responds to experience, not argument. A man who delivers emotional contrast becomes unforgettable. One who brings depth becomes significant. One who instills safety becomes trusted. And one who can create all three simultaneously, intensity, depth, and security, becomes impossible to forget. This is not manipulation, it is the architecture of memory. Emotion acts as a bookmark in the brain. The more vivid the feeling, the more indelible the imprint. Moments linger because they are felt deeply, not because they were perfect. If you want to remain in her mind long after the encounter ends, stop trying to impress with words or cleverness. Stop striving to be correct or agreeable. Instead, focus entirely on the experience you create. Does she feel seen, chosen, alive, safe, awakened? If the answer is yes, she may forget the sentences you spoke, but she will never forget you. the hidden realm. A woman is never just what she shows. She is never just what she says. She is never just the version she presents to the world. Inside her exists a private landscape, a realm of thoughts she guards, a realm of emotions she rarely voices, a realm of desires she keeps secret. Not because these truths are wrong, not because they are shameful, but because they are fragile. Because they defy the persona she is expected to display, because they could be misinterpreted, because they could be judged or criticized. So she conceals them. She cloaks them in politeness. She rationalizes them in logic. She speaks them in socially acceptable terms. And yet, the hidden realm remains. Silent, persistent, akarua. It directs her attention. It guides her avoidance. It dictates what excites her. It dictates what leaves her empty. Most men mistake the surface for reality. They trust the mask. They take words at face value. They measure her by what is spoken, not what is lived. But words are shields. They are camouflage. They are protection. Truth resides deeper, in her choices, in her reactions, in the patterns she repeats, in the moments she cannot forget. What a woman truly seeks is simple, yet rare. To be seen entirely without fear. To be known completely without judgment. To be accepted fully without exploitation. This is intimacy at its core, not physical, not superficial, but psychological, emotional, existential. The man who can perceive her hidden world, and neither recoil nor control, who does not attempt to repair or manipulate, who does not exploit her vulnerabilities, becomes her sanctuary. He becomes the space where she can lay down her mask, where the act can stop, where she does not have to perform strength, virtue, or perfection, where she can be raw, contradictory, emotional, human. This is why women are drawn not to flawless displays, but to permission. Permission to feel, permission to desire, permission to be complicated, permission to be real. The man who grants this freedom, without pressure, without demand, without criticism, becomes unforgettable. Not for dominance, not for charm, but for liberation. He releases her from pretense, from performance, from hiding. No mask, no act, no shame, just reality. And when she can exist fully, without restraint, that is when connection ignites. That is when bonds form. That is when she stays. Because the space where she can be real becomes the place she calls home. If this spoke to a truth you felt but never said, hit like. Send it to a man who confuses talk with action. Subscribe to go beyond appearances. Only those willing to face hard truths will see what lies beneath.